I had a teacher once in high school tell me that it was so easy to tell what I was thinking. It was like I had this ticker tape kind of scrolling across my forehead, displaying my thoughts for everybody to see. And I look back on that moment and realize it was probably the first time when I really felt like bringing who I am or sharing what I'm thinking was natural for me. I also look back on that moment every time someone asks me if I want to play poker, and I think it's probably not a good idea. So as I've grown older, I think sometimes expressing who I am or sharing what I'm thinking, some days has been as easy as it was that day in high school. Some days it's been a lot harder. And other times it's been something that it's really important for me to do, but I'm not sure how to do it. But it's always something I use to guide my decisions and how I move forward in life. And there have been significant moments in my life that have really challenged me to think and better understand myself and to better understand other people and to make sure that I'm really making decisions that are right for me and for my family. I'd like to share with you a couple of those significant moments and really talk about how they've impacted my life and given me purpose both inside the workplace and also at home. My first significant moment was by far my hardest. On May 7th of 2000, I lost my older brother, Rob, when he passed away from melanoma. He was only 30 years old. He had only been diagnosed or only been sick for a couple years, and he had just been diagnosed right after he graduated from the FBI Academy in Quantico. And he had moved to Idaho where he was stationed as a special agent, and he was really living his dream job. He loved working as a special agent. And because he was in Idaho, he could do his other passion, which was rock climbing in the mountains of Idaho in his free time. And he was really just getting started with his life. My brother was 8 years older than me, and so had always been someone that I looked up to and who had inspired me. He had taken care of me and protected me. He was always the person I ran to when I fell down and broke something. So he was really important to me. My family was really close. And losing him when I was only 22 years old had a profound impact on my perspective on life. And it's something I carry to this day, and it drives how I make decisions. And in two key ways. I would say, first, I recognize that life is short, and you never really know how much time you have. And so I do everything in my power to make sure I never take my family or time with my family for granted. And I do everything in my power to not take my health for granted. And second, my brother taught me to have passion in what you do. He loved what he did. He really always wanted to be an FBI agent. He actually had an application for the FBI hanging above his desk in high school because it was the only motivation he had to study. And it was really, even when he felt awful, when he was sick, he got up and he went to work because there was really no place else he'd rather be. I started working at GE only a year, or less than a year actually, after my brother passed away. And I was working as an Edison engineer, which meant not only was I doing my day job, but I was doing A-course homework in the evenings or on the weekends. But I was really still struggling with having lost him and trying to find a new normal for me and for my family. And so I really felt like I was struggling to find the energy I needed to do the work, and I was really lacking the concentration I needed to be able to do the work well. And so I started to question whether this is something I could really do. Was this really right for me at this time in my life? I was also starting to listen to the voice in the back of my head that was asking if this is something I really wanted. Did I want a master's degree in engineering? Did I want to long-term be an engineer? Because I looked around and I saw all these amazing engineers that I work with, and they had such passion for what they did. And I didn't feel that passion, and I didn't feel like I had the passion like my brother had for the work that he did. So I started to question whether this was really the right thing for me. But the GE Aviation, the Edison engineering program, isn't something that you quit. It's this really amazing program that was an honor to be a part of and leads to great opportunities. But I was slowly looking at myself in the mirror and realizing that it wasn't going to work for me. And so I did some research, and I consulted mentors, and I put together a plan to come off the program. And I took that plan to the Edison leader at the time. And I was really worried about the impact this was going to have on my career, my ability to be successful here. But instead, I was met with kindness and compassion and the flexibility that I needed. And I was able to come off the program and roll into a full-time performance engineering role. We found a way to make it work. And I was honestly a better employee because of it. the small amount of energy I had, I could focus on my work and making sure I did that well. I had my weekends back for myself, or I could go home and visit my parents who lived a couple hours away. I was able to join a nonprofit, which helped people who were dealing with loss, which helped me, but I was able to help other people who were going through a similar situation. I found a balance that I needed at the time. That experience for me at GE really, really early in my career taught me two important things about working here. The first is the people here are amazing. And if you do your work well and you ask for what you want or what you need, there's so many people who can help guide you and mentor you on your journey. And the second, I realized that I was going to be the only person who defined what success meant for me. And once I realized that my definition was going to be a little bit different, or my career path was going to be a little bit different or non-traditional, once I was able to accept that and acknowledge it, I was able to make a decision that was right for me. I think that decision at the time meant coming off and having some space to process losing my brother. 10 years later, that actually looked a little bit different for me. I had two really small kids, and I was struggling. I was in a customer program manager role, and I was struggling with the amount of time and energy when you have a customer-facing role. You're really focused and have a lot of attention you need to give to them. But I wanted to spend some time with my two little kids, and I wanted to be with them. And so I actually came off my customer program manager role, and I rolled into a job in compliance, which is a little bit of a non-traditional career path. But for me, it gave me the balance I needed at home, and also gave me this really unique experience in the workplace that gave me a completely different perspective of the business. And I learned different things about leadership and communication and risk. And it was this really great role that really worked for me at the time. And ultimately, both when my kids were little and previous when my brother passed away, after life was a little bit more stable for me at home, I was really able to step back into bigger roles when I was ready and take on bigger challenges somewhere in the commercial team, which is where I've developed a passion. And I could take on bigger roles, and ultimately I think that's led me to where I am today, which is in the CFM product line as a CFM 56 Boeing Programs Manager and CRB Chair. It's this really amazing commercial role, but if I looked back, I probably would have never imagined that career path for myself as a young engineer. But I absolutely know it's the right career path for me. My second significant moment happened only a couple years after I had started working here. And what really very few people at GE knew at the time was that I had come out to my friends and family a couple years prior, and I was dating this really amazing woman who ultimately would become my wife. Acknowledging that I was gay was something for me that was kind of a slow and painful process, but it was something I had worked through in college mostly, in between kind of crazy engineering school, my brother being sick, but it was finally something I was comfortable with. I was finally proud of who I am. But that made it really difficult to feel like I couldn't talk about that at work. Our commitment to integrity at GE has always been something that's really, I've connected with. It's really important to me. But when I felt like I couldn't bring all of myself and truly talk about who I am or what's most important to me, or when I felt like I was lying by omission and not telling people things, I felt disconnected from working with integrity, right? When that Monday morning, how was your weekend question scares you every Monday morning because you don't know what should I say, what should I not say, what pronoun should I use, what questions they're gonna ask me, it's this giant waste of time and energy, and it builds a wall between you and the person asking the question who's trying to build a bridge, right? And it wasn't gonna work for me anymore. And so I started to think, well, how can I come out and be more comfortable? But at the time, it was 2004, 2005, and I looked around and I didn't see anybody that was out at GE Aviation. I didn't know anybody. I hadn't heard it ever happened. And I was really nervous about what that would mean and how would it impact my career. And because I didn't have a data point inside, I looked outside and there were plenty of stories of people at the time and other companies where coming out had really derailed their career. So I was nervous. I didn't really know if it was gonna work. So I actually thought about leaving. I thought maybe I can move to another part of the country. I haven't worked here very long. I can go work someplace else. I can find a business or a company that's already has a culture where people can be out. But I didn't want to leave. I liked the work I was doing. I really liked the people I was working with, and I didn't want to leave. So I was trying to figure out, how can we make a culture where I can come out here and I can stay and continue the work that I was doing? And I had started to find that some of the other businesses, particularly healthcare and capital at the time, they had started to have a group supporting gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender employees. And they were starting to get a little bit of momentum. So I was reaching out to them and trying to figure out if that was something we could do here. I had people kind of on both ends of the spectrum giving me advice. I had a mentor at the time who was like, well, can't you find a quieter way to come out at work? And I had people kind of at the other end of the spectrum at some of the other businesses who were like, great, we've been trying to find an aviation person, and I felt like they thought I was gonna be somehow like the gay poster child for being out at aviation. And neither end of the spectrum really thrilled me, right? I was worried about, what does this mean for my career, or how do I not disrupt the relationships of the amazing people I work with every day? But I decided, let's give it a try, right? Let's give it a go. So I put together my business case for why we needed this organization at Aviation, and I took it to Mark Kinney, who was Vice President of Human Resources at the time. And I laid out my business case for why this organization was going to be important. And he said, great, I agree. And he actually told me a story about how an employee had come to him only a couple years prior and had said, I'm a gay man and I'm not comfortable here and I'm leaving. So he got it. He understood why it was important to make a culture where people could feel comfortable here. And so he's like, great, how do we get started? Which I think was the only question I wasn't fully prepared to answer, because I didn't know how to start an affinity group at GE, and I certainly wasn't exactly sure how we were going to start to have this conversation in the workplace. But GE didn't know how to do it either, so we somehow figured it out together, and we slowly started to get a little momentum. I'm going to show you a picture of what the organization looked like in 2005. So this is Mark Kinney, who, standing up, who volunteered to sponsor our first event. We had a few people who would step forward to help try and get the organization going, and then a few brave souls who came to our very first event. And slowly, with the help of a lot of really amazing people who stepped forward, we started to get traction. We had a ton of amazing allies who stepped forward to help grow. I'm going to fast forward 10 years, and this is what the organization looked like in 2015, when we came together for our global meeting, celebrating 10 years of the GLBTA Alliance in Orlando, Florida. It was our global meeting. It's over 400 people from around all the different businesses from around the world. It was the first time the chairman came and spoke at our global meeting. David Joyce was there to support the organization, and a ton of really amazing internal and external speakers, and it was so amazing to celebrate the evolution of this organization over 10 years. And to have played a tiny role in helping this organization grow has been one of the most amazing things that I've been a part of. It was really exciting to celebrate. I feel like I can't fully express to you how meaningful it is to be able to come to work every day and bring all of myself. To not be afraid, to not hide, to put a picture of my family on my desk like everybody else. It's something I wish for every employee. And being part of the organization, I've met so many amazing people who've shared their stories back with me about their experiences. And that alone has been one of the most amazing pieces of this journey that I've been on. Coming out at GE taught me a couple things. First, from a point where I was really worried about relationship suffering, I found that it led to more open and honest conversations and connections with people, both with people who were supportive right away and with people who were maybe not as supportive at first, but were brave enough to ask questions and to learn. Second, I would say from a place where I was really worried about it ruining my career, I found that it's led to a ton of amazing opportunities. Because I've been more open, because I've led things, that I've gotten to meet people from different parts of the organization, it's really expanded my view of the organization. And lastly, and probably most profoundly, it's really given me an opportunity to recognize some of my own biases. You know, I made assumptions about how people would react to me coming out based on where we were in the world or their backgrounds, and overwhelmingly I was proven wrong. And overwhelmingly, it was a positive, open response. And I would also say that the Alliance is made up of a huge amount of diversity. There's so many people with so many different experiences, and having the opportunity to stretch my mind and overcome my biases and make assumptions, it's been really one of the most profound gifts I've gotten back from being in the organization. So these two moments absolutely shape my life and my perspective and obviously my career path, but they're by no means all of who I am, right? I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, I'm an introvert, I'm an engineer, I'm a commercial leader. There's so many different ways that I show up every day. And I think as the organization becomes a more global organization, we're getting better at recognizing our differences and being more comfortable bringing them to the table and talking about them and learning. But I think the work is really unfinished. I think there's so much more to do before it's natural for us to just share our vulnerabilities. But I think the more each of us does it and the more our leaders do it, I'm convinced the better off we'll be. And I think it's really, I feel inspired and lucky to work in an organization that fosters authenticity the way we do here. So having the opportunity to do a purpose talk has been a really rewarding experience for me. It's been a little bit scary, I won't lie, but it's been so amazing. I think there's so many people who are on a journey and have these challenges and unique perspectives, and so being asked to share mine has been really humbling, so I thank you. I wanted to leave you with kind of a summary of how I view these moments in my life. And I have these 3 items that sit on my desk every day. I have a picture of my brother doing something he loved. I have a picture of my family, and then a canvas that someone made for me at the end of a job I had recently. And I have these on my desk to remind me of these 3 ideas and to live them to as best I can every day. The first is to rise up. When life throws you some crazy curveball or disruption, I think you have the opportunity. You can either be taken down by it, or you can stare it in the face and own how it's going to affect your life. And I think the opportunity to maybe somehow make your life better because of it, or more aligned to who you truly are or what matters most to you, I think standing up for what you really want can be really amazing. Second, step out, whether it's relationship to coming out or just stepping outside your comfort zone and trying something you've always been afraid to try but really want to do. I say don't be afraid to jump. Not only do I believe you will find it personally liberating, I also think you'll be surprised and overwhelmed by the amount of reception you get back and the connections you make stronger. I honestly believe your safety net is wider than you think it is. And last, I would say be authentic. I think the idea of sharing vulnerabilities or bringing all of yourself to work can be scary or challenging. But what I've really learned is it's so amazing and rewarding to be able to bring all of yourself to work every day. And what's equally amazing was that other people around you do the same thing. I'm going to leave you with a quote I found as I was preparing. This is by author and scholar Brené Brown. Authenticity is a collection of choices that we have to make every day. It's about the choice to show up and be real, the choice to be honest, the choice to let our true selves be seen. This is the wish I have for all of you. Thank you.